Welcome aboard the adtech show, where marketing, media, and adtech converge. Fasten your seatbelts as your host, Pesat Latin steers you through the digital world of advertising trends and marketing innovation.
Deserve to win when it matters most. Facing multi-billion-dollar bet the company litigation. No problem. That's why we're here. Troutman Amin, LLP, is a true legal powerhouse.
It's not just a podcast, it's a survival guide for the digital jungle. Today we're slicing through the buzzwords to talk work-home juggling, keeping your cool in the chaos of clicks and codes, and cracking the secret code of health in the high-speed world of ad tech. First, we got Ted Rubin, the social marketing guru who can sell ice to Swedes and probably has a hashtag for it too. Ted's the guy who looked at relationships and thought, let's put a return on that. He's been around the digital block starting with Seth Godin and rolling through Yahoo like a boss. Author, speaker, and the man who can network in his sleep, Ted's here to drop some truth bombs about connections in a world where everyone's a username. And next we have Nick Fries, the man who laughed in the face of economic downturns and started Digiday during the recession. He's the proof that in the world of media, size doesn't matter, but guts sure do. Nick's story is like a phoenix rising from the ashes of 2008 financial meltdown, showing us the only crunch worse than credit is a stale croissant. And last but not least, let's not forget Lana McGilvray, the returning champion of purpose-driven branding. As co-founder and CEO of Purpose Worldwide, she's not just shaping brands, she's shaping the future. Recognized as one of the top women in PR, Lana is the guru businesses call when they want to be more than just a logo. She's here to tell us how to carve out market positions without losing our soul or our minds. So plug in, tune out the office buzz, and let's get this irreverent, insightful, and possibly caffeine-fueled party started. The Adotech Show, where our ad tech gets real and the only filter we have is for our coffee. So, issue one. The endless grind. Well, first of all, you're calling from Connecticut, Nick?
Yep, I'm in New Canaan, Connecticut.
The trees gave it away in the background. It was so obviously Connecticut.
Yeah, the deer and the coyote are out there too.
Issue one to the panel, the endless grind when tech turns 24/7. Welcome to the tech industry 24/7 circus, where the clowns are coding, the ringmaster is your relentless email notifications. Is this digital big top, the show that never stops, work-life balance? Is our industry's constant connectivity culture breeding innovation or incubating insanity? First, I'll go to Nick, since you're obviously remote.
Yeah, so I mean, the work-life balance is obviously really important for us at Digiday Media. In the early days, there was no such thing as work-life balance. We didn't even think about that. You know, it was all about, how would we survive? How would we grow? We didn't even think about, the hour it took to, to build what we have today. We just went and did it. So, but today it's very different for us. Work-life really important to us at Digiday Media, so much so that we talk about it, we think about it on a regular basis. And one of the things that we did, and we did it, we started last year and it's got really well, is we went to a 4.5-day work week. So we were doing, half-day Fridays in the summers every single year. And then we just thought to ourselves, look, we know what people's rhythms are and what their cycles are. And when they get to Friday afternoon, they're absolutely burnt out, and nobody wants to sit at their desk, at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on a Friday. Obviously, some people do, but it's tired. So we just figured we'd shorten the work week, and that's worked out really well for us. That's one of the things that we've done at Digiday.
Ted, you're calling from your home?
I am calling from my home in Pompano Beach, Florida.
So how do you keep the work-life balance? You talk about it a lot, I think, in your speeches and your appearances.
I first of all, I think, especially for the whole demographic of who's on this call, I think a lot of it's different for us necessarily than people just starting out or, bigger companies. A lot of it is up to us individually. And then a lot of it is up to us as leaders to make allowances or to encourage people that work for us to find those things. Look, COVID kind of changed things. All these technologies were there. Nobody was willing to use them. We got forced to use them. People realized that people could work remotely. So back in the day when I was fighting to keep my kids in my life, I was luckily the CEO of a company, Elf Cosmetics, and I could make believe I was going somewhere when I was actually going to court, or I was going to pick up my daughters when it wasn't acceptable at the time. Like Nick mentioned, back in the day, we're talking like 2008, which isn't even that far back for guys like me. But I just want to say, because I don't want to take up too much time with this, obviously I want to keep this moving around, but I think there's two sides to this equation, because I think in some ways we've gone too far with the make your own time work-life balance, where I find a lot of the young people coming into some of the companies that I work with. Now, I'm not directly managing anybody anymore, so I can't speak to that really directly. It's more of what I'm viewing, is that everybody thinks that they don't have to be answerable as much as they used to be, or they don't have to come into the office if a company wants you in 2 or 3 days a week, or God forbid you stay in the office past 5 o'clock, where, there's also different times of your work-life career, whether you're single still, you don't have a family yet, other considerations come in over time also, just as you're maturing as a worker, you're gaining your legs. It's the same as, the guys first joining the NFL team have to work a lot harder than the guys that already know the playbook and have been there for a while. So I think that during this conversation, I'd like to look at both of these sides. That number one is like enough of this, if you're not working 20 hours a day, you're not working hard, or, the old, what did Gary Vaynerchuk used to say? I could sleep when I die. Or, come on. I mean, you're making workers less productive. They need to do things for themselves. They need to keep physically fit. They need to worry about their health. But on the other hand, there still is a value to hard work and being available to people when need be, just not this 24/7 always on thing.
Yeah, I think there's a bell curve which shows you reach a certain high, and if you work too much, the productivity just crashes. Lana, I think you're the only person actually in an office today, right?
Yeah, but I have this work-life balance too. Nick knows him, but I happen to be in my husband's office. So I'm co-locating with Pentagram today. I think I told you, because I usually office these days out of my home office post-pandemic, gave up the office in 2019 when we started the company, and didn't realize we would be officeless. So, for some work-life balance reasons and a sick dog, I came into the office so you didn't have to hear the 90-pound lab. But I think the issue that we're discussing is one that's really near and dear to my heart. I started my career in the mid-90s at a global ad agency. I had no work-life balance whatsoever. I worked 24/7, had a passport. So pre-digital days, I was the one they were going to put on the plane and to send the NTSC tape over to L'Oreal, whoever the client was overseas. And I kind of loved it actually back then, because it was a time to show off and prove your worth. At the same time now, I'm nearly 50. I'm the mom of a 16-year-old. We have 2 sons and some grandkids through my marriage. And the most important thing to me is my family and the team that we're raising at purpose. And retention of our team and their mental health is so important to me. And one thing that I think about all the time is really helping people forge a life balance that works for them. And sometimes, to Ted's point, going the extra mile, but we really try to spark it when they're going to enjoy it. I had the really good fortune of going to the Nobel Prize Summit this year with a young woman that worked for the J Post before she left Israel, and she really loves the world. And she got to do a launch with me at Nobel Prize Summit, and we worked 24/7 for 4 days, but I think it was one of the best times of her career journey so far, and same with me. So I think we need to look at it from all angles. It's a different time than it was 20 years ago, and we need to do things well for all of us.
Yeah, I think good point. It is so different today than it was 20 years ago. I mean, 20 years ago, there was such thing as work-life balance. That wasn't even a thing. It wasn't a word we threw around at the office. We just got up at 5 a.m, got in the office by 7. We're working until 7 or 8 at night. If you were a media planner, you were doing sometimes media plans for 24 hours straight. You weren't even going home. And, but I think we've come a long way from then. And I don't think that was probably the right way to work. in the end, it really is about performance. And as you point out, Pesach, there is a bell curve. Like, you get to the point where it's just diminishing returns, and you're not going to get the performance from your team or from your people. They're going to be burned out, or they're going to look for a new job. And if you've got talented people, you want them to perform at their best, and you want them to be engaged, and you want them to be motivated. And so for me, I'm happy that work balance is a thing, and it is about, point of view and perspective and where you are. I mean, so for example, my work-life balance, my work is integrated fully with my life. So I'll work on the weekends, but I don't mind. It's Digiday Media. I own the business. So I never turn off. If I'm on vacation, I still work because I enjoy it and I love it. But, if you've got a junior reporter that's come in, they don't want to be reporting on the weekend. They want the weekends for themselves. So anyway, that's just sort of my take on it.
I think a lot has changed because of the available technology. Like, Nick, when you and I were younger, it was you kind of had to stay in the office because once you left, it was so hard there wasn't even email. I mean, like, it was so hard to communicate with people. But there's two sides to that coin. On the one hand, we have these tools that allow us to be remote and to run out to pick up the kids or go to a game and still stay connected and then do our work after or work later at night. But it also makes a lot of us either ourselves, we put the pressure on, so we're always on and we think we, always have to answer. Like, I like to say, I always tell it when I'm speaking to people is, be careful what you build as your personal brand. Like, part of my personal brand is being responsive. If you reach out to me, you're going to hear right back from me. Well, there's a lot of pressure that goes with that because you turn off and all of a sudden you've built that brand and people, like, I start getting literally texts going, "You okay? What's going on? We haven't heard back from you in 2 hours." Like, seriously? So we kind of build that on ourselves. And then we also, once you make yourself represented that way, your company expects it of you, your friends expect it of you. And I think a lot of it is us setting those expectations, using the technology to give us the freedom, but at the same time, learning that you don't have to have it on all the time. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I'm 66 years old and I am trying desperately to take this thing and put it aside at certain points of the day. And I'm not having a lot of success with it, Nick. I mean, we communicate a lot through social. Like, we like each other's posts, we say things, and it's like 24/7. I know I can get a like from you at 2:00 in the morning.
Was the connectivity culture the catalyst for this discussion? You mentioned that you felt, Nick, that everyone was working all the time 20 years ago, and this is a huge change. But maybe it is the connectivity culture that requires us to have a work-life balance because we can't go home. We have to bring work with us. Everyone has a phone. Everyone's expected to have a phone. I've seen job postings where it says you must have a phone.
I think a lot of it also is just that we've got to train ourselves differently. We become so reactive to these things that it's hard to be disconnected. And we think we're being more, I mean, I definitely, if you asked me and I was just answering you quickly without giving it real thought, am I more efficient because I multitask? I'd say absolutely. But I also have learned that I'm not, that I'm missing things, that I'm not answering quite the way I want, that I make more mistakes that I have to back up on because I'm doing 3 things at once. Or I'm sure you guys have all experienced this because I just did a lot of it today, was all those emails I never responded to 3 months ago. And I thought I did. Like, I thought Lana never got back to me, but then I realized I never sent the email because I thought I did because I got a ping on my phone and I moved on to something else and I just never got back there. And there was a long time where I thought it was because I was aging, but then I see 22-year-olds having the same problem. It makes me feel a little better.
So moving on to the home office, obviously we're bringing that up since 3 of us are in a home office. It's not all pajamas and freedom. Let's make that clear. Is it the Trojan horse of our world? Is this a way for workers to sneak in extra hours and make sure that the living room is a new battleground for our work-life balance? Is this actually a blessing that we are working 24/7?
I think like everything else, it's all in how you use it. I mean, some people, for a lot of people, it's become incredible. You can be a part of your kids' lives. You can go to things. You can put in your hours when you need to put in your hours. And hopefully you work for a company that looks at results, not at hours clocked. There are a lot of companies that don't, but the ones that do, I think they're actually getting more out of their employees because, there's so much time wasted when it comes to commuting or getting to offices, even if that office is 20 minutes away. I mean, think about it. You got to get showered. You got to get dressed. You get in the car. You pick up a cup of coffee. You get there. You walk in. You go to the coffee room. You get settled. You talk to 4 people on your way in. And now your commute has actually become an hour and a half. Whereas if you're at home, you could have gotten your kids lunch ready, you could have gotten them on the bus, or you could have taken them to school and had the same time done. So I think a lot of it, like everything else, is how we use it. And I think one of the things that big companies especially aren't doing is they're not taking the time to help their people learn how to do those things, especially younger people and new employees, on how to multitask or how to work from home and do it efficiently and get more out of it instead of less out of it. My 2 cents.
Right. A survey from Blind says that 57% of workers say that they're cozying up to burnout. But that's a serious issue. Isn't that one of the reasons we have burnout? Is this 24/7 on, that we're expected to always have our phone on? We're always expected to have our email ready?
Well, I think it's part of your culture, right? If you've got that grinded out culture, damn the torpedoes culture, you've got to always be whether you've got that highly driven A-type CEO or executive team that just does not let off the gas, that's gonna trickle through your culture. It was like, as Ted pointed out, we used to go to the office because that's where we would connect and that's where people were. If our bosses were still sitting in their office, we felt pressure to stay there and to sit there. But if you have a boss who's going home at 5:30 or tells you to, get back to your family, that's built in the culture. So, the way that we see things is we want our team, to have a balance with their work and then their home life. And part of the challenge and that you're bringing up here is that, when you're working from home, you are always on. You're always available. Always pick up your device, your computer. You're expected to respond. But, we've had people tell us through surveys that they don't want Slack messages after 5 o'clock. They emails going out after hours. And if you feel that way, you know what, we respect you. And, it's noted in the way that you like to communicate. And, you have to, you have to treat people differently these days. It just is a different world we live in. And I think, in some ways it's much better because I think for our team, it feels like we're getting more out of people. And that was one of the reasons we put in the 4.5-day work week. We may move to a 4-day work week because you can only squeeze out so much performance from people during a week, so that's our take.
My relatives are all from Europe and overseas. And so this American culture that we've all lived through is, my Australian relatives are here for 3 weeks with me and they're not even thinking anything of taking those 3 weeks off. It's a very American thing in some ways. I remember when Marissa Meyer was forcing everybody to go to the office way before COVID. And I had just moved out of New York where I was taking the Metro North into the city to Ted and Nick's point and wasting so much time on the train half the time and thought, why is she doing that in California where people are going to be spending so much time of their commute and so many of the people that work for her are women and families, and they're going to be making these trade-offs that we saw people make during the pandemic when we lost a lot of women in the workplace. It just doesn't seem very rational. I know for us, at least, we've been competing for talent. So we've had to talk about what work-life balance is going to be well before the team members come in and accept roles with us. And then again, on the retention side, I'm learning a lot from the Gen Zs and millennials that work for us, quite honestly. I like to work and it's my hobby as well. So they remind me sometimes when I'm showing up on a Zoom and I look too tired, or maybe, there was an edit that they caught because I was working too late and it wasn't.
You look great today.
Thank you. I slept well, rare with, in any case, it's, I won't go beyond that. That's all I had to contribute on that.
I think it was really important, something that Nick just said. And just to reiterate on it, I just wrote a blog post about it, that communicate with people the way they want to be communicated with, especially if you're a salesman or a parent. Like, I learned this as a divorced dad, communicating with, trying to reach out to my daughters. And I'm sure you've all gone through this with your kids. You call because we want to hear their voice, because we're parents and we're desperate to hear their voice. And you get a text back that says "what" with an exclamation point. And that's their way of saying, don't call me. I'm not going to pick up the phone. I'm available. And, I learned that from them, and I take it to business. And I think Nick just took it to the next level, that it's not just about people you're trying to sell. It's about your employees. Learn what's best for them. I think we're in a really new time. I mean, it has not been a long time that so many people have been working remotely, and that this technology has been available. And I think companies have to start building their apparatus around that, whether it's training of the executives who are leading these people or of the people that are being led. To, again, I love Nick's point, is how do you want to be communicated with? What's your best way? I mean, I work with companies that all want me on their Slack channel, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, you want me, it's in my contract. I've started putting it in my agreements. You got to text or email me or call me. I'm not joining another Slack channel because I just don't have the bandwidth for it. So I think that Nick takes it to a great level. I'd love to see companies, as that's part of the initiation. That's part of coming into a company. What's the best way to communicate with you? Are you happy working weekends? Would you rather not work weekends? Do you want to get communications all the time? Do you not?
Speaking of Gen X, how would Gen X? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Lana.
I was just going to say, we negotiated these things in the past with total compensation packages when we were going to get sabbaticals in the pre-COVID world. And we're just, it's new language that we're using, but it is about the same things and what our values and ideals. Right now we're doing the opposite, where because we didn't establish an office because we opened up during COVID, we are actually giving the employees the options to go into offices, because a lot of them have never done that before, and they were desperately lonely when they started working and they want to interact with others. So we're giving them the opposite experience.
Yeah, we just recorded a podcast with Sean Black of Daily Motion, mentioned that his son has his first job, his first internship, but it's remote. And he's worried that his son will never learn how to work in an office, that he's just going to have remote, and that the actual experience of working in office, having your boss there and having someone actually supervise you and be a mentor will never happen. So that age group, the Gen X, you mentioned it before, how does Gen X communicate with people more our age or a bit more senior, that they actually want that balance, that they don't want the boundaries between life, their personal life and work blurred that much? Because we've all seen recently the postings of some founder who writes, you have to work 120 hours, you have no personal life, you may not be married, you cannot have a girlfriend or boyfriend.
He got a very specific demographic when he made that change.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, Pesach, so did Sean, is that we have people that we onboard remotely, and we office, we have a WeWork in New York, but we used to have before COVID hit, we had an office at One Liberty down in Fidei, and we had 110 people in that office. That's where we went every single day. We had something that was called WFH, and it was work from here. We didn't have work from home, and people were really upset about that. They didn't understand, why don't you have a work from home policy? And I would always say, we're a media company. We need to collaborate. We need to see each other. We need to communicate. We need to work together on whether it's our journalism or our marketing or, any creative process. You have to be together. And so that was my short-sightedness, our short-sightedness, that we thought everybody had to be together. And then when COVID hit, it just completely blew that to smithereens. And I was scratching my head saying to myself, how the heck am I going to run a media company with 4 different brands and a content marketing agency built into it with people, 150 people all over the country, just, completely, because people moved, they didn't stay in New York more.
Yeah, I think I was one of your advertisers back in the day, back when I was back in the early days. And it's so funny that you said that, because I didn't even think of working from home. I remember the flight attendants asking me when I was trying to split the CMO role between Austin and New York to stop flying pregnant at 8.5 months back and forth to the office.
I know. It's just amazing. And so now we're in this world where it does work. And people do like to have the balance of not commuting, 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day, or flying from Austin to New York to go see their executive team or whatever. But the problem is that you're getting these young people who are joining companies that are working alone in their studio apartment or one bedroom apartment, and they're alone. And we've had challenges with that. We've had certain reporters who just, couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with the isolation or working alone. So we try and do a lot of in-person gatherings. We do company events. We do lunches. Some of these are using Zoom and trying to keep people connected, but it is not easy. And I think for us, we will definitely get back to having an office, but we will never force people to go to the office. We only want people to go to the office if they want to, if they want to connect, if they want to collaborate. I will never say to our team, we've got 3 days a week, you have to be there. You're going to be there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that's it. I mean, I just can't even imagine doing that.
Nick, I commend you because one of his all-star reporters, Tim Peterson, created a digital twin. I don't know if it was to fight loneliness, but I love his twin.
So, Nick, you touched upon this briefly. Were there people that just couldn't handle it and they had to quit? They couldn't handle the change? They're just like, I have to have 50 people around us. I can't work where some of the people are remote. I can't have these little boxes. As I mentioned, this is like Hollywood Squares. I mean, we're all in a little box all the time. And is that itself even healthy? Is that having these back-to-back Zoom calls all the time? I'm told I need to jump on this call, I need to jump on that call. I mean, I used to drive the 50 blocks, down Madison Avenue and have my 30, 40 minutes in the cab. Now I'm expected to have 5 Zoom calls a day.
You know what I see changing? Look, I say to a lot of people a lot of times, just call me. Like, don't send me a Zoom link. Don't send me another link. I'm going to be out walking. I'm doing something else. I'm driving. I don't need to see you. I mean, and it's become almost everybody says we'll do a Zoom. And I've even had some pushback on that until recently. And all of a sudden now, after the new year, I've had my first 2 communications where someone I reached back to said to me, what's your preference? Do you prefer Google Meet? Do you prefer Zoom? Or, do you just want the phone call? And I'm able to say, just call me. Or what I usually do, because I just find Google Meet very easy because doing a call is just as easy as doing the video, that I'll say, just set it up as a Google Meet. And if I don't want to do the video or I can't, we'll just talk. But I think that is something that needs to change. I'm tired of all these, these in-person things and people asking me about my background and where are you and what are you doing. Like sometimes these calls are 10-minute calls and they want to jump on a Zoom and I just need to get some information across and move on.
Right. Yeah. Phone calls always a good way to communicate. I use phone calls for our executive team. We have an executive team meeting every Monday. We get together. We check in with one another. But then my one-on-ones are all done by phone because I personally that I can think more clearly when I'm on a phone call rather than a Zoom.
Right.
So I'm not by anything. But to go back to one of your questions, Pesach, is how has our team responded to the full remote work environment? And some people have had a challenge, and they've been very vocal about it. I mean, we've had some of our reporters just openly talk about how stressful it is on social media, and they say, "Look, I'm so used to working in office. This is really difficult." And so when we see that, we try and we try and work with them. We have days where it's Desk Pass. I don't know if you've heard of Desk Pass, but Desk Pass, you can rent bigger office spaces and you can get teams together for a day. So we try and do that. But out of all our folks, I think it's only been like 1 or 2 people who just really couldn't take it anymore and decided to move on. But to go back to young people coming into an organization that's fully remote, it is definitely a challenge, and it's a new challenge that we're dealing with now. And ultimately, we'll have to figure out a better balance than being fully remote.
Do you think there'll be a time in the future where people's resume will literally say, I can only work remote? That you'll get those? It'll be like this, I'm only a remote worker?
Option right now in a lot of like when you're searching or when you're hiring, it's one of the listings.
I think a lot of that goes with buyer's market or a seller's market. When it's a buyer's market, it's up to the employer that makes the rules. When employment is short or people aren't available, it goes the other way. It's just like a real estate market. I mean, there's ups and downs in that. But I also see another perspective I hear from people, and men and women both, who are tired of working at home with their spouse or their significant other, and they're desperate for a place to go. And what a lot of them do is they legitimately say, "Hey, I got to get out. I'm going to go work at Starbucks." Or a lot of them, again, both sides, will make up, "Oh, I've got a meeting at Starbucks," or "I've got to go here," because they've just got to get out of the house, because it's hard to work in the same place with somebody else all the time when it's not someone you're working with or someone that you're living with 24/7. I'm stunned. I see a stunned face from you there. But I'm hearing that a lot. I don't know about you guys.
Family member, so.
So what are some key strategies for mental health? We've talked about it. I know for you, Nick, when you started your company, and I wouldn't bring this up if it wasn't in your bio. I know it was a difficult time for you. How did you manage that? How did you manage going through sorry, I can't think of the word, but through your own struggles, personal struggle, and starting a company? Like, how did you stay sane?
I don't think I was, to be honest with you. It was a lot of pressure, but for me, I was so clear in what I wanted to create with Digiday, and I was so focused, and I think there was just so much pressure to survive, each day, each month, that I just had no other choice, and I didn't have a plan B. I only had plan A. So I was not going to give up on that plan. And so, there were a lot of sleepless nights. There were a lot of times where the stress was just overwhelming, but I just kept going. And that was the thing, is that you just, no matter how hard it is, you just have to keep going. And no matter if things are falling apart, if it looks like, you're not going to be able to make payroll, you don't know where the next check is coming from, it seems like the walls are just crumbling down, you just have to keep going. And so for me, it was always just making forward progress, no matter how far I got knocked back. So, but I don't know, I think some people can handle the pressure and stress, and for some reason I was able to deal with all that. But some people are more fragile, and they're very vocal about it, and you have to listen to them, and you have to take time, and you have to check in with people. And we do that a lot. I mean, we have weekly check-ins with all leaders have, either weekly or multiple times a week, to check in with their team members and see how they're doing. We do regular surveys to get feedback on how everyone's doing, and we make decisions based on that feedback. I don't want people to feel the same pressure or stress or anxiety that I had, building this. I want them to be free of a lot of that, be able to perform level.
Yeah.
So,
do the new technologies make that easier? I mean, are the technologies like Slack, and then having virtual assistants, and then having Zoom and stuff like that, make it easier to actually have a family? Everyone here, I think, has kids.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are more grown than others, but everyone here has kids. So do you think this technology has made it better to be parents? Made it easier to be parents?
I think it's made it a lot harder to be parents. It's made it easier on us to be parents as far as our ability to connect, but it's been difficult because of all the access that our kids have. And I think all of us, our kids are a little bit older, so we're not experiencing what's happening right now. But as soon as those things started happening, like, I'm just thankful that my daughters are older and they're not, on all these platforms at this point. They didn't really get onto them until they were in their teens because they didn't exist. But I think, look, a lot of it goes back to, I think what I'm hearing from Nick and Lana, and things that we're doing in companies, is supplying tools for people to figure these things out. Like, figure out, how do you deal with stress? I mean, I think a lot of us do it naturally, or, we all have different methods. Some people go out for a hard run. Some people, it's multiple things. I mean, like, I found for years, even today, social media helps me a lot, because I post more for myself than for anybody else. So it gives me this ability, no matter what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling inside. If I watch I think a lot of you guys know, I've had struggles with my kids and being an alienated dad. And I'll be watching a show like New Amsterdam that I was able to get online, and say, I'm sitting alone in my house, but I'm able to say to my community, like, I'm really enjoying this show because it's allowing me to be sad for someone else and allow my sadness out in a different way. And I was able to share that where I could get immediate feedback, or immediate people supporting me, and then again, because I control my social very carefully, I can interact with the ones who will give me what I needed and ignore the ones that might be giving me what I don't want to hear. And also, I think what's great about these new technologies and allowing to be remote is if I need to go out for a swim or for a run or a workout, I can do it easily. I do it a lot of times while I'm on calls, exercising or working out or just dropping down and doing a few push-ups because I need to relieve some stress, in something like that. And I think that we need to, I don't think any of us really got that other than from specific mentors back in the day. And we learned to seek out those mentors. Whereas now I think companies have an opportunity to help train their people that way. Like Nick was talking about onboarding and having weekly talks with employees to hear better things, but not only to hear from them what they need, but to share with them some of the other successes people have had in dealing with those things. And I think we just gotta, think about people, and then try to steer them away from these mentors like an Elon Musk that claims he works 120 hours a week or whatever his bullshit is that I don't want to hear anymore.
Well, we want healthy employees too. And he's not, and I'm obsessed about the book actually and went to see Walter Isaacson talk about it not long ago. But if you look at him, he's not the picture of mental health. And
no, clearly.
If you look at the relationships that he has, and we don't want those for our teams because we didn't want it for themselves. And when we worked 24/7, we've all had colleagues that have gone through mental health experiences, suicides in the industry, divorces, so many things. And we don't want, if you made it to our age and you're still in the industry, you don't want to repeat the bad history. We want teams that are really thriving and doing great and really on. And none of those things work for any of us.
And yeah. I think we have to champion building relationships because, again, with all these remote people, some of them aren't. And for me, it's my friendships that have really gotten me through most of the hardest times.
They're in a state so that they can continue to grow. We didn't have that when I was coming up in the media industry. It was just you just get in and you perform and that's it. You weren't treated well. You had good bosses, you had bad bosses, you had toxic. But in our organization, we just don't want. If you're a toxic person, you're just not going to like it. It's just you're going to go. We want people that care about others and that want to support others. That will offer up a hand if they're not feeling great and support them. So. That's the kind of company that we want to build. And I can't imagine working for Twitter. I couldn't imagine working for, bosses, like an Elon Musk, who's just so incredibly toxic. That's just not, and look, okay, well, I'll never be as rich as he is, or, we'll never be as big as Tesla or Twitter, but I don't care about that. I just want to feel good about the company, people that I'm working with and, creating.
Well, I think it's important to point out Elon Musk does not
monetarily.
Elon Musk does not have a relationship with his kids. He's famously known that some of his kids hate him. Actually, just downright hate him. I think that's very important. He has all the money in the world and claims he loves his children, but his children come out and have actually been his biggest detractors. So what good is having all that money when you can't even share it with your family?
I want to say something.
Okay. Go ahead. I had my first kid. I had my first kid in 1997, and as me and Lana were talking about before, she's entering Harvard Medical School, and for me, I don't know if I had the support. My first career in this industry was CyberReps. I don't know if you remember CyberReps. They represented advertising.com, which was TechnoSurf at the time. That was my first career. I don't know if they gave me the support to have a child at that time. I was really required to work 24/7, always be on, always be in the office, or always work. And that was already in 1997. I feel like maybe now my life would have been completely different. I would have spent more time with my kids. I would have been there more for my children.
But it was also a different I was just going to say it was a different mindset then. A lot of us wanted to do that. We felt that was, like, oh my God, I work around the clock. And it was an ego kind of a thing because it was because of the environment and how it was accepted, and things like that. And it was something that we were proud of because we didn't know better. And just like we didn't know about how easily we could work remote before COVID, you have these new realizations and then things change.
Right. I was also 23 at the time. I think there's a lot of difference. Now I'm almost 50. I don't know if I can work 24/7. I don't know if I physically
Well, we all
can do
do
it.
that. Come on. I bet you, Lana, I bet you do the same thing as I do. You say, how did I get on the train every day? Like, oh my God. Like, my alarm would go off at 6 a.m. There was no time to make coffee. I'd like jump in the shower, get in the car, if I didn't get to the train station by a certain point, there wouldn't be any parking spots left. Jump on the train, get into
10 miles before you even got on the train, right?
yeah, and then subway to the office or walk thank God you were close enough that you could do that. I mean, I can't imagine doing that now every day. But I think part of that is also age. And like you said, we're getting to a point of our lives where a 23-year-old could do that.
I still have to jump on a 5 a.m. plane to Vegas tomorrow.
Well, yes, but planes are a little different. It's not the daily train.
I hear you. I like the choice now. I really enjoy, and I am glad that the teams have the choice. I think it's great. And actually on big companies too, I was really, really proud. Paul DRC was CMO of Indeed. He's now at Miro, same street actually on South Congress, but they were one of the first offices globally to close down during the pandemic in those offices, just like in New York. And for a company like that, just to say, oh my goodness, we're going to close these down for the long term, with the rents and everything like that, I really commend them. It was something big. Autodesk came out. I did an interview with I think it was not the current CMO, but the last CMO of Autodesk, and their president came out. I don't know, there was no vaccines, and told everybody on a team meeting that nobody would lose a job for a year or two. How they had the foresight to do it, but there were some incredible things that happened with workforces at a global scale, and it's amazing to watch people make those decisions across such large companies. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, I think, Ted, what's your motto? It's be good to people.
Be good to people. I mean, it's not that hard, and it makes you feel better.
Yeah, and everybody, what being good to someone it's different for everybody, and you just have to find out, what is good for each one of your team members, and you just have to respond and plan around that. And that's what I look at in terms of work-life balance and mental health for your team and people inside your organization. Is you have to be good to them.
And I just want to make a statement for whoever's listening to this, and please, guys, jump in if I'm representing us incorrectly. But I just want to make sure everyone understands, we're not saying everyone has to be perfectly happy and that everything's unicorns and rainbows and you don't have to work hard and we're going to support you and you're going to get love and everywhere you go and no one's ever going to tell you you did a bad job. That's not what we're saying here. There's still a place for hard work and diligence, and those who do better work get promoted quicker than those who don't, et cetera, et cetera. But there's ways to do it better. And like Nick said, be good to people and do the right thing and combine another line of mine, Nick, that is the hashtag that Pesach talked about in the intro is no let up. So no let up in life doesn't mean that that means you have to work 24/7. It means there's no let up in work, in looking out for your family and looking out for yourself, in helping others, in all these other things. But you can do it in a way that's better for you and better for them.
Amen.
What are some tools that you find that help you guys with a proper life-work balance?
Well, I think
for
a lot
example,
of the things
some of the companies have no email weekends. Some of the companies have some of the.
Well, that's more. I think
you're
talking more policies than. Are you talking tools or policies? There's two different things.
Like, are there tools that you use or policies that you may have in your own life? While companies have the no email weekends, is that something yourself you do? Or is there any policies that you like? You tell yourself, I'm going to put my phone down.
Yeah,
2 hours a day.
We've got a few things that we do at Digiday Media. One is they're actually called work-life days. And so we give people just random days off. We let them go, be with their family, friends, go do something fun. And we plan that out for the year, and we make announcements. We close the office down between Christmas and New Year's, and there's just we still
love that.
Give people just that time, because nobody wants to work during that time anyway. We do the 4.5-day work week. We also do volunteer days. So if you want to go out and volunteer and give to your community, you get that day off, and you can go out and do that. But I think one of the things that Ted said, which I think is really important, is that we're not here to kumbaya everybody and make everybody all the time, because part of being good to people is to challenge them and to help grow and to motivate them and to make them better at their jobs or at their skill, whether it's being a journalist, and making them go back and get more sources and keep digging and keep working harder. And that may not feel good at the time, but that is being good to a person on your team. And so it is always a balance of giving people the time to go reset, but when they come back, helping them be the best versions of themselves.
Nick said the same thing, team. And I was on multiple sports teams, and I just love teams so much. And so we give the same holiday policy and have unlimited vacation. We do a lot of just get-togethers, just coffee breaks, the same way that you had office hours. But we also do things like baton passes, just to make sure everything's getting covered, and just to remind everybody that when you're off, somebody else is holding the baton for you, and somebody else is working more when you're out. And so it's just a reminder that it is a team, and that we're linked together, and we share a purpose. And we count on each other. And so just teaching that trust and camaraderie. And I know not exactly, but I like to know what my team members love as hobbies in sports, and how they'd like to spend their free time. And are they a foodie or something else? And we're reminded of that when we're, it's not just bonuses, it's some soft things too that remind us of one another as people.
And I'm in a different position. So I don't run a company. It's really just me and then people I work with. But I try to, whenever, especially young people, when I work with them, I try to talk to them about remembering to use people's names, remembering to write something nice, whether it's in an email, not just a quick answer. Of course, not as you go in every one, but use someone's name, recognize them, go to look people in the eye digitally, go to their LinkedIn page, go to their Facebook page, know something about what they did for the weekend, or ask them. People love to be asked questions. I mean, what did you do this weekend? And then also, be comfortable with if they don't want to do that. Be self-aware that they don't want to answer that question, so they move on quickly. And for myself, like I also try to encourage people to take baby steps. All of us that try to do too big, too much at once, it's New Year's and I'm going to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to work out every day. And, for me, the baby step has been turning my phone on Do Not Disturb at night. I mean, it's a little baby step. But I used to sleep with it on all night. God forbid I missed something that someone needed me. And now by 10 o'clock at night, I put it on Do Not Disturb. And so now if I want to see what's there, I'll go and look, but it's not pinging, which is, I don't care who you are. If that damn thing is buzzing, your mind is thinking, what is it? And it's hard to relax. So I just try to take baby steps for myself and not build goals that are too audacious that I'm never going to meet and then just be disappointed and drop it.
If you could remove something from the ad tech and advertising industry that would make it less toxic, what would it be?
Well, I think social media is just, I don't think it's about removing it. I think we just got to rethink some of this stuff, and I don't know where it's going. But
specific to the advertising industry or in general?
No, okay, I'm talking more general. But let's talk about the advertising. Let's just talk about LinkedIn and just some of the ways it's gotten better, but it's also gotten worse. And people that I don't know one specific technology I would say we have to get rid of. I think it's a change in mindset, probably more than anything else. But
yeah,
again,
LinkedIn has become more like Facebook over the last few years. I mean, I finally figured it out, I think, the last few months. But honestly, I don't want to see, no offense, I don't want to see you, Ted, in a jacuzzi on LinkedIn. And that's what I feel like. That's what I feel like a lot of what I'm getting. Not you specifically, but I'm getting, the people who feel that they want to share their whole life now to me in a professional setting?
I have a different take on that. I think that's my platform. I can do whatever I want with it. Don't follow me if you're not interested in seeing what I'm sharing. What bothers me is just about how it's become such a junk mail. It's more the outreach and the emails and the tools they're giving all these companies to reach us and ping us. Whereas I'd rather see more about that. And then you can all train your social media. I mean, the algorithms are totally trainable. You go to see who you want to see. You knock out who you don't want to see. You stop watching things. It's the ads that have made it more difficult, and the tools that allow people to do mass outreach and customize it to make it look like it's personalized for you. But anybody sitting at this table here knows that it's bullshit and it's not personalized. So, and I think also it's important to encourage people. I think it's important. I want to know. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that I don't have, that aren't on Facebook, or I don't see anyplace else. I love to hear about their families because it gives me the ability to connect that much more with them. Again, if they want to share it with me, I don't proactively say, hey, how come you're not posting about your family? Or how come you're not posting about what you did in the weekend? Or look, my blog is called Straight Talk. It's tedrubin.com, but most people don't realize it has a name. So yeah, I'm a little bit more outright and open than others. I'm very political on LinkedIn. If it's something that I think is really important and I'm passionate about, whether it's Israel and anti-Semitism, or it's anti-authoritarianism, I'm going to post about that because I want companies and executives to hear what I'm thinking. And they don't have to agree with me. I'm not going to call them out if they write a comment that doesn't agree, but I want them to know how I feel, and I want to rally like-minded people. I'm not trying to convince you to believe in what I'm doing. I'm trying to get people like Nick, who I know might see what I'm doing, to say, oh my God, that is important. Let's talk about it.
Lana, do you feel that having a purpose in your LinkedIn is important?
I think it's all about you personally and what you want to accomplish. But yeah, I do. But that's the advice I would give to somebody. It's not something I would require of my employees. But I also believe that the best way to build your company is to have all your employees be writing about and sharing about if they love it. So therefore, it also encourages you to make sure, like Nick, that your employees are happy, because then they're going to share more about your company. And what better voice than the people who are actually doing the work every day?
Yeah, exactly. I think the one thing I'd want to change in the ad tech industry, or any tech industry, is that hustle culture mentality and mindset. Working 120 hours or whatever the hours are you need to succeed. I think that's bullshit. I think you just want performance, right? And you want performance from people, and you don't need to work these insane hours to get the best out of people. And I think it's investing in people. It's not ripping the heart and soul out of companies like what he did to Twitter. I just completely just gutted it, shredded it, and to it. So I think the hustle culture is, I think, detrimental to tech companies and the tech community, and I wish they could just like get rid of that and focus more on investing in people and helping them grow, and that will build better companies in the end.
Yeah.
Going back to Lana, having a purpose, do you think that's important? Is that good for one's mental health?
Whether you call it purpose or you stand up for something else, I'm always going to remember a Sarah Fay over in Elon Musk, because when she picks up the phone and she spends time with you and she mentors you, it's not for anything except for the purpose of passing it forward. And I would, I'm a capitalist, sure, but I would take an iota of the income to be that for the teams that I've been helping to raise over the years, because I think we get to do this once, and I want to do it the right way and be kind to people and have them do the same. And our industry, look at us, we've known each other for so long. Why would I want to be overly aggressive or do something negative to hurt anybody? I remember a year and a half ago, we lost a reporter in the industry, and she took her life. It was super, super sad. And I still just wonder, is there something about our industry that worked somebody so hard that was, it just breaks my heart. So I think aggressiveness could easily go away.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And one thing it reminds me of is, like, I think sometimes people in this industry are transactional. And, it's all about the transaction, getting the deal done, getting the partnership done, and then just moving on, getting the IO, and then just moving on, and not building real relationships. I mean, I think the four of us could always work on something, always trust each other, because we've known each other for so long, and it hasn't been a transaction. It's been about a relationship that we've had over the years. And so, I hope that the industry can get to that place where they're building more relationships and less transactions.
That'll be the best lesson that we ever teach anyone.
Yep.
Before we go, if you could send yourself a time traveling text message to when you started in this industry and how you should actually have a life work balance, what would you send yourself?
A life work balance.
Actually focus on, actually do it. Yeah.
So you're asking specific to the work-life balance, not just that general message going forward. I mean, look, it's what we're all told when we're young, and we don't listen to people who are more our age, and we try to share that wisdom now, is that it goes so damn fast. I mean, my biggest thing is I see dads, and I say mostly dads just because I'm a dad. I mean, I've said it to moms as well, but sometimes they don't take it as well because I'm not one of them. But whenever I see dads with little kids and I see the frustration level building, because we've all had those tough times, especially traveling. I look at them and go, dude, suck it up. It's going to go way too fast and you're going to miss it. And just enjoy the downs, whatever, just like the time. I'd give anything to have more of that time, even if my kids were crying, just to be with them. So, and again, being a guy that's had to fight to keep my daughters in my life and not having a lot of success with it right now, maybe I overcompensate in that direction. But that's what I try to share the most. And I guess it goes to this whole work-life balance. Like, spend that time with your family. I mean, I have this meme I share a lot, which is my daughter and I got, when my daughter was 16, I took her to Costa Rica and we learned how to surf. And, the thing on it is like, don't wait. Don't wait for the right time or the perfect thing. Do it now, because youth passes way too fast, and those times of our lives go too fast.
Yeah, I agree. I'd probably just send myself a bunch of pictures of my kids when they were little, because I see them much, to be honest with you. And that would certainly snap me out of it. I mean, fortunately, I have a 9-year-old right now, so take her to the bus. I got to actually pick her up from the bus in about 5 minutes. So, that would be a good reminder. My 3 kids who are a little bit older, they were young. So, and that's because
same. I've got the same picture, different child that Ted has on my phone.
Right. People come into my house that don't know me, and they're like, "Oh my God, your house is like a shrine," because I can't get rid of it. I have the photos everywhere from all different stages. They're all over the walls. And again, people that know me totally get it. People that don't sometimes are a little bit like, "Holy shit!" But that's what I want to hold on to.
Lana, what would you send yourself?
I don't think I could say it better than either of these guys said it. The time goes really quickly. And just lean on the teams, maybe. Maybe I was a little too hard on myself. I had 2 experiences over the course of my career, once when I had a double mastectomy and once when my mother had cancer. And those were the 2 times I really, I'm used to helping raise the teams. And those were 2 times that I counted on my teams more than I could tell you. And man, were they there for me. And they were very, very special times. And they were the times in my career, because it was the reverse role for me, when I learned the most and I appreciated the most. But it wasn't easy for me, especially the first time to step back and take the time off that I needed to heal.
Oh, and the other thing I forgot to mention is when you meet Nick, make sure to get a job at Digiday. That was my biggest ball drop.
Well, my other advice is never to race him on a bike, by the way. You'll lose 100.
Well, thank you, everyone, for your insight and your discussion. I'm going to stop now.
Jobs in AdTech.
Are you looking for a new role in the industry? Head over to jobsinadtech.com today. Employers attract top talent for as little as £50 per open job role.
And that's all, folks. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform or YouTube.